He's out of Fort Bragg. Now what the hell were they doing here?
I don't know, Dutch. This is inhuman. Nobody told me there was an operation in this area. They shouldn't have been here.
Somebody sent them. What happened here, Billy?
Strange, Major. There was a firefight. They were shooting in all directions.
Can't believe that Jim Harper walked in on an ambush.
I don't believe he did. I can't find a single track. Just doesn't make sense.
What about the rest of Harper's men?
There's no signs. They never left here.
Ain't no way for no soldier to die. Welcome to Predator Minute, the podcast that analyzes the 1987 action sci-fi classic Predator 1 minute at a time. I'm your host, John Zabriskie.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
And today we are discussing minute 18 of Predator. Minute 18.
All right, minute 18, John.
Oh, I have to open it up here. Sorry.
Oh, my bad.
Let me give a summary.
Yeah.
I was pausing. I was pausing because I was on the wrong page.
Fix it in post.
Fix it in post. Never. Minute 18 opens with Dutch asking Dylan what the hell the Green Berets were doing here, and ends with Billy telling Dutch they never left here.
They never left here.
So we're diving right into the meat of, as it were, of the situation that we didn't see, this much messier noodle incident.
That's right. Here we are. Everyone's freaking out. We kind of get dialogue through this whole minute. Mm-hmm. We see all characters, right?
Yeah, we see every single character again in this minute. It's really rare. I think that we're going to see all 7 of the team, and that is going to become even rarer as we hit the second act of the movie.
Yeah, and they almost all of them have lines, but not everybody, correct?
Yeah, everybody has lines, or they're moving.
Yeah, okay, right, yeah. Or kind of moving across the background.
Except for Blaine.
Right. Oh, Blaine.
Blaine, the sentry. I'm just going, he's just standing guard with that. What does he have first? MP5, I think, and then he has,
that's right.
He has something in the duffel. We'll see next minute.
So we open up with a conversation between Dylan, and Dutch, and they are understandably appalled and shocked and horrified by their discovery in the jungle.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to be Dutch, or do you want to be Dylan for this line reading?
Oh, okay. Let me get my script in front of me. I'll be Dylan.
Okay, here we go. Green Berets out of Fort Bragg. Now what the hell are they doing here?
I don't know, Dutch. This is inhuman. Nobody told me there was an operation in this area. They shouldn't have been here.
Somebody sent them. Walk. Nice. I like that you delivered that last line, because he totally changes tone. Dylan does when he says they shouldn't have been here.
Yeah.
It's different than just like, I don't know who these people are. It was more like he's letting on like, yeah, I kind of know what's up, but they shouldn't have been here. Like, this is not where they're supposed to be. It's basically playing his hand, in my opinion, that he's almost like scolding these skinned alive soldiers or these dead skinned soldiers.
Right. It's like, oh, you're blowing my story here. Yeah. You can see him start to wrestle with his lies here. Right. Like he definitely starts to let on that he knows a little bit more than he's saying. And you get the sense that he is struggling with that a little bit.
Yeah, and he visibly is telling us this, that it's hard to tell the truth, because he's doing the classic thing where he's looking away half the time he's talking, making eye contact just to sell it a little bit, but he's totally looking at the dog tag. And it's something I missed in the previous minute. You just barely see it on the corner of the screen, but Dutch, as he's giving him the head nod to say, hey, Dylan, let's go have a private conversation, Dutch is very easy, casually giving him the dog tags, just barely on screen. And then Dylan is looking at the dog tag and wondering aloud about, what are these people doing here? They shouldn't have been here. They shouldn't have been here.
Right. And Dylan he looks up and down, and Dutch just stares at him the whole time. Like, he doesn't take his eyes off of him. He's trying to read him, trying to figure out if he's lying or not. You kind of realize that he knows he's lying, and he's trying to catch him in the lie. But yeah, he's given a pretty mean stare down here. Mm-hmm. This is like Arnold, like steroids stare down.
He's like looking in the mirror as he's doing the...
Yeah.
Doing the curls.
His eyebrows are wrinkled, and he's really giving him the mean mug.
Yeah, and we're totally giving credit to Arnold for this too. Just totally selling that attitude of you're not telling us everything, and this could lead to much worse things, like look around you, look around.
Right.
This could be very dangerous. This could lead to lead to bad things for us. Yeah, look at Hopper's situation. But he mentions that these men are Green Berets out of Fort Bragg. I did a little tiny bit of research,
just a little,
aka a lot of research. So I'll try to make it short and sweet, but.
All right, let's hear what you got.
Sweet. Yeah. So Green Berets, Green Beret specifically, when you say Green Beret, you're talking about just nomenclature wise, the headdress ceremonial that special forces soldiers would wear.
Often referred to as SF.
Yeah. Often referred to as SF. So not sci-fi, but your special forces. So I'll either say SF or special forces. They adopted the whole Green Beret look and name from British commandos in World War II. And in fact, that's when Green Berets, special forces, started being used, was in World War II. And if you look at the history of them, it's since World War II, they've been involved in every conflict imaginable that the U.S. has been involved in one way or the other, whether it's Cold War, World War II, just various civil wars, the Laotian Civil War, Dominican Civil War, Salvadoran Civil War.
Did you, in your, I'm sorry not to interrupt, but
go ahead.
In your research, did it say did Green Berets have a specific type of mission that they were usually used for? Was it like covert missions or like rescue missions? Was there anything in particular that was consistent?
Hey, I'm glad you asked, because that's one of the notes I have.
Okay.
And they're tasked with 5 primary missions: unconventional warfare, foreign internal defense, special reconnaissance, direct action, and counterterrorism. Counterterrorism, pretty self-explanatory. Direct action has to do with raids, ambushes, sabotage. Special reconnaissance or special recon has to do with being dropped behind enemy lines and relaying important information about the enemy back to base. And in fact, starting as special reconnaissance forces, reconnaissance, whatever. Special recon forces will sometimes transform into unconventional warfare forces. Those would be forces that are tasked with training basically guerrilla forces to overthrow the current power, the current government, which is hilarious to me because foreign internal defense has to do with supporting the government and suppressing coup attempts from guerrillas. So basically, depending on who they fight in the country, either they're trying to overthrow as one operations of special forces, or they're trying to suppress those overthrowing forces as unconventional warfare special forces.
So does this kind of bring you to your theory?
Well, almost.
Okay.
So we'll talk. How about we'll talk? Let me talk the connection to Dylan,
Okay.
and then we'll talk some pop culture, and then I'll share my theory.
Okay, got it. Yeah,
okay,
no, sounds good.
I don't have a lot to say about Fort Bragg other than they're the home of the special forces. Namely, they call it the Special Operations Forces.
Got it.
So they're based and trained in Fort Bragg, and I'll leave the rest of the Fort Bragg research to other people. But their motto is De Oppresso Liber, from being an oppressed man to being a free one. So there's that idea of freeing a country from a certain occupying force that they don't agree with, right? That our government doesn't want ruling. But a big connection to a previous minute that I made was that the CIA, their SOG division, which I theorized that Dylan was part of, that's a special activities division in the special operations group, heading up these situations where they're training guerrilla fighters to overthrow a force, or they're working with the current government to suppress guerrilla forces. The CIA would be recruiting from Green Berets. They'd be recruiting from special forces, which I thought was really interesting, connecting that back to Dylan. And for whatever reason, and I have a small theory about why Green Berets and Special Forces became so popular in the 80s and 90s. Then I have a bigger reason connecting it to what we see in the movie. But for whatever reason, Special Forces and Green Beret nomenclature became really popular in the early to mid 80s. We have movies like Delta Force. We have Commando, which has both Arnold and Bill Duke as
I ate Green Berets for breakfast.
Love Commando. And Alyssa Milano. Don't leave her out.
And a very young Alyssa Milano.
Yep, in overalls.
In overalls. The film Executive Decision has the Special Forces counterterrorism team. I believe that's the team that is totally wrecked in the beginning with Steven Seagal. We're like, Steven Seagal's in this movie? It's like, nope.
That's right. That's the one where he dies, like right in the first 5 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, everybody.
Spoiler alert. Oh,
I forgot about that.
Lethal Weapon. Riggs is a former Special Forces sniper in Vietnam War.
Fun fact, I named my dog Riggs when I was 10 years old after the Lethal Weapon character. It's a true story.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
In this research I was doing called Wikipedia, it mentioned that among the deep dive, like first hit, like the students done.
Right.
It made mention that the film Predator follows a team of former Special Forces soldiers, which I thought was interesting because that's definitely someone taking that leap of saying, I see what's on screen, I'm going to assume they're Special Forces. So if you're someone who subscribes to that theory, then there you go. Predator is featuring some alive Special Forces soldiers here in the beginning.
Nice.
The movie Walking Tall features Dwayne Johnson as a Special Forces soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And in our second favorite movie after Tango and Cash.
Oh, Tango.
In this other movie, George Clooney plays a Green Beret Major, Archie Gates, in this little-known movie where...
What movie is that again?
Soldiers are in Iraq finding gold. It's called Three Kings.
Oh, and Marky Mark's in it, too.
And Ice Cube.
Get your fucking gold.
Get your fucking gold. Yeah, it's Iraqi gold. We're not here to help people.
Say hi to your mother for me, all right?
I can't believe they said that in Mile 22. By the way, I think
Did they really?
And it wasn't him saying it. It was the guy from The Raid who turns out to be a bad guy. Spoiler alert for a terrible movie, but at the end,
no way.
He leans into
really
Marky Mark and he says, "Say hello to your mother for me," just in broken English.
Oh my god! I'm so glad I didn't see that.
It's so bad.
Oh man.
I want to spoil as many bad movies as I can.
Sorry, everybody.
But some other popular places you would have seen this in the 80s and 90s and I guess early 2000s, this proliferation of Special Forces and Green Berets would be the A-Team, where everybody there are from a Special Forces team. Everybody, B.A. Baracus, Face, the crazy one, and the leader, Hannibal. And who's the crazy one? Murdoch? Is Murdoch the crazy one? Burn Notice. It mentions Michael Weston, a former Green Beret and Delta Force operator. I haven't seen that one. So anyway, let's see. There's a lot of G.I. Joe characters who are Special Forces that didn't take much looking, but Duke, Snake Eyes, Flint,
Duke,
Falcon.
He was my favorite.
Flint and Falcon, in fact, are wearing the Green Berets and into battle all the time, which you really wouldn't do as a Green Beret. You wear actual combat things, but that's G.I. Joe for you. They're all wearing whatever they want to wear in battle. Let's see what else. Oh, I thought one was a couple really interesting ones from TV shows. Knight Rider featured Michael Knight, who I never knew as Michael Knight was a former Green Beret. So he's Special Forces.
Idea. I thought he was just a former douchebag.
David Hasselhoff, Green Beret turned lifeguard. I mean, that's quite the turn.
Yeah, it is.
Taking lives to saving lives.
I thought he was just a former hair blow dryer spokesperson. His flowy mane.
You can't be wearing a Green Beret over that.
No, you got to let that fly.
Yeah, exactly. My favorite of the TV series references is that Principal Skinner is an ex-Green Beret, and you see that. I remember in some of the flashbacks he has, especially early on, he's like,
"You got an ex-Green Beret, man."
In the Vietnam War, and John.
That's amazing. I did not remember that or know that.
I'm just now remembering that, where he's his buddy is on the boat with him in the river, and his buddy's is shot up. And he's like, Johnny.
I love that because he's such a pushover pansy idiot as a principal. And to think that he was at some point in his life a Green Beret, you just want to ask yourself, like, what happened to him to like break him down?
What happened? Yeah. And we see part of that actually in the show, which is tying it together. In the video games, we have the Metal Gear Solid video game series. I've played quite a few of those games. Have you played any of those?
I have not played the Metal Gear Solid games. No.
Okay, so that would be Solid Snake and one of the bad guys, Big Boss. They're former Green Berets. How about Mortal Kombat? You ever played Mortal Kombat?
Played Mortal Kombat. Wait, who in Mortal Kombat is a Green Beret?
So Sonya Blade and Jax. So I think Sonya Blade was one of the original characters, and Jax was added in 2, I believe. So they're both.
What about Guile from Street Fighter? Was he a Green Beret?
Ooh, that's a good point. I always took him to be Air Force. Basically, if you want to sound like an awesome fighter and inventive in combat situations, we're learning you just call yourself a Special Forces soldier or a Green Beret, which leads me back to my original bigger theory here, or I have 2 theories here. I have a small theory and a big theory. Theory first is why was it so popular to have Special Forces soldiers and people with Green Beret pass, and this all emerging in the 80s and 90s? Well, my small theory is that the one I haven't mentioned yet, this 1982 movie called First Blood, which was based on the 1972 David Morrell book, was all about this soldier who comes back to the U.S. He has a lot of PTSD, flashbacks, and troubles, and he's essentially like a drifter, a wanderer, going from town to town. And in the movie First Blood, and as well with the book, he's struggling so immensely that he's taken on like the local sheriff and whatever these other forces. Do you want to talk a little bit about First Blood? Because you just watched it as research. I
did. You brought this up, and we were talking off mic before we started, and I realized that I had never seen First Blood. That I've seen Rambo movies or clips of Rambo movies, right? Like all the Rambo sequels always played on cable when I was a kid, and so my image of a Rambo movie was like the parody of Rambo from UHF,
right?
And so recently I watched the original First Blood, and it is a fantastic movie. I highly recommend anyone who has not seen it. It is legitimately good. It's a good action movie, but it's also just a good movie, period. Because you're right, it's character-based, and it is definitely about John Rambo, who's struggling with PTSD. He's wandering, he's a drifter, and he drifts into this town and kind of runs into the local police. Really, the local police just harass him for being a homeless person, essentially wandering through the town. And their run-in escalates to the point that he's taken into the local jail. They provoke him. He gets angry. Violence happens, and he breaks out. And the rest of the movie, as most people probably know, is them chasing John Rambo through the wooded countryside. And it's fantastic. Like the action sequences are great. It's shot really well. It's, like I said, it's very character based. So because of the first part of the movie, you really feel for John Rambo. Like he's not just a 2-dimensional character. You really are rooting for him.
Right.
Yeah, it's really good.
So I have to believe that this first movie, First Blood, and then the sequel that comes 3 years later, where they basically go from alien to aliens and turn him into like this massive Hulk who's just taking on enemy forces, dozens at a time, with
soldier,
a bristling armament at his disposal.
Never-ending bullets.
Yeah, exactly. Just pour more lead on it, pour more bullets on it.
Right.
I think this has a huge impact. I think this is pretty much like the whatever starts the fire for Delta Force and Green Beret and Special Forces being so popular in the 80s. So that's my small theory.
I like it. I like it.
My bigger theory is, if you remember what the roots of Predator were when people were first shopping around the idea, it was the story of Rocky having beaten all these terrestrial combatants. Now he has to finally fight an alien. And who plays Rocky? Well, Sylvester Stallone plays Rocky. What else does Sylvester Stallone play? He plays a Green Beret, Special Forces soldier.
Yes.
Rambo. So when they come across the bodies here in minute 18, which has taken, I think, 20 minutes for me to complete my theory. When they come across the bodies here in minute 18, I think this is meant to be a placeholder for saying, hey, look, we've had this big bad creature, this big bad force, already taking on the biggest, baddest dudes, these special forces, the Green Berets, off screen, and there was no contest. Knocked him dead, literally strung him up as, not even take home trophies. As a way to say, like, this is your best.
Right.
Is that your best?
That's your best. I'm going to flay them and hang them from the trees. Right.
Right. I think this is meant to remind us, when he says Green Berets, I think in the 80s, you would have been saying something like, holy shamoly, that's insane that something could do this that easily to Green Berets. These things I've seen popularized through TV shows and movies and video games as being like these indestructible soldiers,
right?
As these super soldiers, as the best of the best, as driving around a car that talks to you. There's no way that could there's no way something could take out Michael Knight
or
and
his
that
hair.
Exactly. Michael, I sense a predator.
All right.
Big theory. What do you think?
I like that theory. I think that's spot on. I like the theory that Rambo kicked off the Green Beret trend or craze, if you will, the 80s action movie. And I think that fits in nicely with the theory that Sylvester Stallone was sort of the original framework for this movie. Yeah. Well, John, we are 11 seconds into this minute. Should we move on to the next part?
We should definitely move on. So why don't you tell me what happens in the next, I don't know, 10 seconds?
Well, we get a little line of dialogue from Poncho, correct?
Correct.
All right. So, so Dylan and Dutch finish staring each other down. And then Poncho, the camera we can sort of see the bodies in the trees a little bit. And then we see Poncho. And then he says, do you want to be Poncho? You want me to be Poncho?
How about you be Poncho?
He says, I watched this part like 14 times, so I can do it. The gorillas skinned them? Why did they skin them? He says it kind of like a young boy.
Yeah.
His innocence has been taken from him, which I can understand that. Even a special forces soldier would probably be pretty rattled by a bunch of flayed bodies hanging from the trees. So
yeah.
I'll give him a little credit there.
Yeah, and it might be something brand new to all of them, something they've never seen, but he just tends to be a little more vocal when it comes to, I don't know, everything. Like he's good about he's good about letting us know as the audience what to be feeling. He's a good audience surrogate for. Yep,
you're exactly right. He's kind of saying what the rest of us are thinking. That's true.
Yeah, nobody says anything. That's the only time that we're really spinning on the fact that these soldiers were skinned until Dutch brings it up. Dutch will bring it up in a future scene, but that's for another day. That's for another week.
Yeah.
So soon after that, we see Mac. Mac. He totally does that too in the drop. He totally does that.
Really?
Here, I'm going to bring in the drop here because
the drop. You have it?
I've actually been making a lot of it literally just says drop, and then here we go.
Mac.
That is amazing. You need to drop that as often as possible. Every time we say Mac, you need to pause our vocals and play that.
Right, just have the plane.
Yeah, just the Mac. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Mac.
Your editing skills you're really honing those editing skills, John. I'm very impressed.
Thank you. It can go a little bit overboard, let's be honest.
I love the overboard.
Okay, cool.
Send it overboard. All right, so we get Mac, and I'll give you Mac's line since I took Poncho. You take Mac.
Okay. So Mac walks up to his buddy, and this is, I think, the first time you see any kind of connection between him and anybody else. You see him walk right over to Blaine, and Blaine is clearly our sentry of this scene. Or of the unit. He has, his gun out and this huge duffel bag at his waist, and just looking straight out, not making eye contact with anybody. Mac walks basically past him and looks out his own way, not even at Blaine, and says, "Ain't no way for no soldier to die."
Yeah,
and that's
ain't no way for no soldier to die.
That's right. And we'll see another exchange next minute between the two of them, where Blaine, I think, has his first line in the jungle. Yeah, we're seeing the first time, like, in my opinion, like some camaraderie between these two. We're out on the chopper. They didn't share any dialogue. They didn't really kind of share any.
Well, Mac was busy shaving, so
Mac was busy shaving. Yeah.
He didn't have time to talk. He had to get the last couple whiskers there off of his neck.
Right. We're not gonna have time in the jungle. Just do it now.
Yeah. Okay. So now we kind of get. So he says no way for no soldier to die, and then the whole second half of the minute is pretty much between Dutch and Billy, a conversation they have. Correct, Billy.
Right. I don't have that one yet, but I do have.
Never gets old. It'll never get old.
It'll never get old.
Sorry, listeners. It never gets old.
Never gets old.
So we get a shot of, I assume that is Billy picking up some cartridges, some shells out of the jungle. And he's kind of holding them in his hand and looking at them. And then for the whole, pretty much the last 30 seconds, last 25 seconds of the minute, we get their conversation.
Yeah, we're hearing them talk. Do you want to do a little dramatic line reading again?
Yeah, all right. Do you want to be Dutch or Billy this time?
How's your southern drawl?
I can make that work.
All right, cool. You be Billy, then I'll be Dutch.
All right.
What happened here, Billy?
Strange, Major. There was a firefight. They were shooting in all directions.
Can't believe that Jim Hopper walked into an ambush.
I don't believe he did. I can't find a single track. Just doesn't make sense.
What about the rest of Hopper's men?
There's no signs. They never left here.
So I mentioned noodle incident. We're definitely having like a bigger, gorier noodle incident than, well, maybe than what happened in Afghanistan, because we don't know what happened in Afghanistan, and we're never going to know what happened here. So that's that.
We just know the outcome. I mean, we can guess. Clearly, I mean, the specifics no, but whatever did happen, you know, having seen the film, we know the Predator hangs out in the trees. We can assume that this bunch of soldiers, just Predator dropped down, easily took care of them, skinned them, hung them up, and that was that.
Yeah, made some easy work of this squad of Rambos. And in fact...
Not so special forces.
Not so special forces. And I think what adds, well, I know what adds to the mystery is that we only see 3 of them strung up here. And when Dutch asks what happened to the other soldiers, Billy has no answers, no sign of the attacker, no trail, no track out of here. They just, I think he's, what does he say in the end? They didn't leave here.
There's no signs. They never left here.
They never left here.
You can't find a single track.
Yeah. He does mention, Dutch says, I can't believe you walked in an ambush. And Billy says, I don't believe you did. I don't know what else you would call it when you're surprised in the middle of the jungle by unseen force other than an ambush. I mean, that seems like the primary way the Predator would be taking people out with its tools, with his weapons.
I guess in his mind, a traditional ambush would be a bunch of people, you know, hiding somewhere and waiting for them to show up. But he can't find any evidence of people that were hiding, or they hadn't made any foxholes. They hadn't, you know, done anything. There's no evidence of any people that were there hiding, setting a trap, setting an ambush. Right. So maybe that's what he's getting at. In his experience, it doesn't look like that situation. But you're right. That's actually what happened. He's just never seen an ambush like this one.
Yeah, just never seen an ambush where these, you know, half of the people are killed right there, and then there are no tracks out. I think that plays a big part in him discounting the ambush theory. That normally you'd find a track, or you'd find some kind of trail leading away from the scene.
So we should talk about Billy's 1,000-yard stare in this scene, right?
Yeah. What do you think about it?
Well, he does that. You put this down in your notes. I thought it was a good observation. He does that classic, somewhat of a trope. I was trying to think of other movies or scenes from movies where we get this, and I couldn't think of anything off the top of my head, but where, you know, we get someone who's a little shell-shocked.
Yeah, traumatized.
Perfect, yeah. And they're explaining what happened, or they can't explain what happened. And as they're talking, they're not making eye contact with anyone and just sort of staring off, at the wall, or in this case, the jungle.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we get that classic. I guess you could find lots of other war movies
I
where
was just thinking
you have
that,
a character that does that. Yeah.
Right, they dropped in on us and took us by surprise, and we were picked off so easily. And the whole time they're just focused on something. Normally, though, I would say a trope of that kind of scene would be the camera pushing into the face of the speaker. Instead, this is purely a static shot on basically the talking heads of Billy and Dutch. Meant to, again, kind of give us a little bit of a side conversation, just like Dutch was having with Dylan, just like Dutch has with basically everybody in his squad at some point, just having his little aside conversation, whether it's to try to lighten the mood, lighten the morale of Panchito. Earlier.
A nice plate of Panchitos, extra sour cream and guac.
Sour cream. I like it spicy. I'll take 3 stars.
Yeah, and we get some good, some more excellent Arnold facial expressions, non-verbal acting in this scene. You mentioned the kind of his little double take, that he does. Yeah,
it's just the kind of like he's looking away too, and then Billy mentions, right, I don't think it was an ambush, and then Dutch has to look back down on him, just like I'm taken aback by what he just said.
Right.
And he says, I don't believe they were, as in we're ambushed. Arnold has to look at him and give him just some like listening looks, just like, I'm listening, I'm trying to take in the information, and I have to process this because I'm the leader of the group, to calculate the next move. And I think the next move for this team is going to be hardening their resolve for finding whoever the F did this to the soldiers. Like, if they weren't already driven, now that they found these men with American equipment, this
explains a little bit about why when they get to the camp, they just start hucking grenades. They stop giving a shit. They don't care. Yeah, they just, let's push this car down the hill. Let's throw some grenades. Like, F these guys.
Right.
Like, we're not going to get skinned. We're just going to throw bombs at you.
Right. We can send them all to hell. We're not going to be asking any questions.
Yeah. So I don't. Maybe I was overreacting earlier. Maybe that whole scene makes perfect sense.
Yeah. When you put in that context, especially with the next minute, like that is when Blaine pulls the minigun out of the satchel and says payback time.
Yeah.
Totally locks and loads it. It's that didn't come out before they found these skinned bodies. That came out afterwards. And
true.
Yeah, we're just along with them now. Like, okay, we're just this spirit of vengeance now, just coming down. Just to wipe out any opposing forces with impunity.
Yeah. All right. So that kind of brings us to the end of the minute. Did you have some other points? Did you want to reference the field manual?
I did. Let's play in the background. I have my drop here. Right here.
Yes.
We'll see. But
oh, I was just going to say, I really like that drop.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. That's a great one.
Mac.
I love that last one. Mac.
Stuff you can find on YouTube. But
shit, that's great.
Every week or so, I'm consulting the old field manual for the Army jungle operations, written in 1982.
Field Manual Minute.
Yeah, Field Manual Minute. In this section, I found a few pages, well, more than a few pages in the Field Manual concerning ambush and counter-ambush tactics.
Yeah.
It notes that a way to avoid ambushes, let's go back. So
Don't join the army.
Don't join the army.
Was that the first sentence?
Don't involve yourself in other people's civil wars. How about that? Like,
Step one, major in computer science.
Step one, have crippling blindness.
Step one, chop off your left foot.
I think that was a movie with Daniel Day-Lewis, right?
Oh, right. That's right.
All right.
Step two, find Saddam's gold. I'm sorry.
The fucking gold.
Fucking gold.
Jungle Operations does not mention any kind of gold seeking, but Jungle Operations talks a little bit about when it introduces ambushes. It speaks of ambushes as a way for whoever is using the ambush to gain the initiative, to resupply based on, the fallen things that they can pick off the cornered prey. They can disrupt enemy operations with ambushes. They can capture prisoners. They can gain enemy intelligence, but they can also just plain destroy enemy forces. And that is totally what the Predator is going with in his ambush that we do not see. It says to avoid ambushes, you need to be alert, have good noise discipline, well-rehearsed signals, and it's something I totally feel that Dutch and his team have mastered when they're moving through the jungle all the time. They're, moving quietly, except in this one, obviously, they're doing some exposition dump.
Sure.
But, you see him use the hand signals. You hear him saying, like, no noise when he's talking about pursuing the trail. And then my favorite of the ambush tactics, if you are ambushed, it says the key is early detection followed by reflex type counteraction, a high volume of return fire, and relentless pursuit. And
yes.
We see a high volume of return fire when Blaine is taken
read
down.
That page. Yeah.
Everybody read that page.
Right.
His will and testament, I think, said, "When I die in the jungle, pick up my minigun and just return fire at a high volume."
Do you think off camera he was like, "Remember page 47.
Remember return fire."
Paragraph 3, line 7.
But I love how just so many of these little things just pop up in the movie. Again,
yeah, it's great.
To give credit
it's a really good find.
Or they must have had this thing like in their lap on the beach as they're writing this the script for this movie in 1985. And can I mention the 1985 script while we're here?
Oh, please.
Okay, there's just a few differences in the script for this scene. But in the script, in the 1985 original script, there is no exchange about Hopper and the Green Berets between Dutch and Dylan. Dutch is named Matheny in the script. Dylan is named Dixon. Everybody has different names except for Blaine and Panchito or Ramirez. But in the script, Panchito just says "fucking animals," which you can imagine him saying in the movie.
Sure.
Being this kind of scared little boy almost. Like, these guys are they're just the rudest. Just so mean.
Animals. Yeah.
Any other differences here? I guess another character difference is that Billy, named Miguel, is originally Central American Indian in the script, and he gives these really like Tonto-like responses. He'll give like half Spanish answers, and then he'll just say something like "movement everywhere, much confusion." And
I'm really glad they changed that.
I'm glad they changed it. They gave the guy Sonny Landham has this great Southern accent, which in some of our minds might go against type of like your traditional tropey, Native American scout guide.
But we don't need like the stereotypical Indian saying like how, like movement over there. Like that's terrible. I'm really glad they made the choice to change that up, because
likewise
it's somewhat, it is offensive and also just incredibly predictable.
Yeah, predictable and just overly simplistic and
right. It doesn't give him personality. No, it just makes him a caricature.
I agree. So I think that's the end of our conversation of this minute.
I think we got it all.
Yeah. Did you have any final thoughts about this minute before we talk weekly recommends?
No. we really did cover it all, I think.
I think we gleaned everything from this.
Yeah, I was going to talk about the score and the music a little bit, but in this minute we don't get a lot of it. Because the dialogue is going, and there's we don't get like a dramatic reveal, or there's not really a suspenseful buildup at all, so that the score kind of dissolves into the background a little bit here. This minute.
It's something I meant to mention with the Indiana Jones guys here last week is that the previous minute had this great moment in the score when they are all just looking up at the bodies. It's not like this horror score. It's not this suspenseful score. It's like this Indiana Jonesy kind of music of like when you just discovered something, not even like something gruesome necessarily, just like this kind of high reflective strings, just this, and you're just wondering like, what is that supposed to be making me feel? Is it supposed to be making me feel like some kind of relief, or something like really reflective about this minute? And I don't know, but I really liked that one, but I didn't have a chance to talk about it last week, so there you go.
Yeah, it's hard to get everything in there.
Yeah, I agree. In just a minute time, yeah.
Well, awesome. All right.
Yeah. Do you want to recommend something for the listener to check out?
Sure. Can I recommend a small handful of movies that I've watched recently?
No. Yes. Okay. Yes.
All right. So I've got 2 newer movies and 1 old movie. So my newer movies is, well, the first one is a film that came out this year that is called Bodied. And it is, this is a movie that I liked way more than I probably should have. It was, I can't remember the director's name. It was directed by the same person that directed a movie called Detention that came out a couple of years ago that is somewhat of a modern cult classic. I'm actually not a huge fan of Detention. It's kind of a tongue-in-cheek horror movie. But I know it has a pretty strong cult following out there. And so I decided to check out this director's next movie. And it is about a white kid who's like a grad student who is studying battle rap as part of his thesis.
Oh, interesting.
And he ends up getting sort of sucked into the underground world of battle rapping.
As you do.
And ends up becoming himself a battle rapper. And it is sort of part 8 Mile, but also it's somewhat self-aware and kind of a comedy. And I don't know. I watched it late at night last weekend, and I was totally entertained by it. Like I said, I probably enjoyed it much more than I should have. But
that was called.
It was called. Thank you. It was called Bodied. B-O. Yes, nice. Wow, serendipitous. Yeah. My next movie is
before you go on, do I have it correct that I think, does Bodied mean when you're pairing up your hip hop vocals to like an already existing beat?
I think so. They this is 2 white guys talking about underground battle rap minute.
In a scholastic sense, of course. And how did thus body?
In the movie, they use it as a term meaning kind of like you got bodied, like, or as sort of a way to say that you nailed it, right? Like
just bodies.
Exactly. And so that's what I think it means.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then my second movie is a horror movie. Anyone that knows me knows I love horror films. I know you're not a big horror fan, John, so you might want to skip this one. But This is a horror anthology that just came out recently. It's available on VOD. You can rent it. And I listened to another podcast called Shockwaves that is about it's a horror movie podcast. It's great. I think it's the best one out there. One of the hosts of Shockwaves, her name is Rebecca McKendry. Her and her husband wrote and directed their own movie, and it's a holiday themed horror anthology. It's called All the Creatures Are Stirring, and it's pretty good. I am recommending it because if you are a fan of horror and independent horror, you should support smaller independent horror projects. When you watch the film, you can tell that it's a smaller film with a lower budget, and it was maybe a director's first movie. But I thought it was fun and pretty cool that she was able to make this film. And I always love seeing women directors in the horror world because we need more of them.
Awesome.
Yeah. So All the Creatures Were Stirring.
I think I remember seeing your tweet about that.
Yes.
Yes. In support of that movie. Awesome.
Trying to get it out there.
Yeah. All the Carl Hungus followers, like just, it just popped right up on their phones.
Just flooded. Yeah. Just flooded her. She's already greenlit for the next project because of me. You're welcome, Rebecca McKendry.
Shout out. Did you have any other recommends?
Oh yeah, I was going to do one more, and this is an older movie, but I recently revisited a Jackie Chan film and realized how much I still love it. And it's called Operation Condor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So in the early 90s, when Jackie Chan became famous in the U.S., because of Rumble in the Bronx, the studio decided to go back and find some of his older movies and re-release them in the U.S., trying to kind of cash in on his newfound fame. Sure. And one of them was called Armor of God 2, which they changed its name to Operation Condor for the U.S. release.
Which they did all the time for all his U.S. releases, right. I've noticed.
Right. And I remember going to see this. So I discovered Jackie Chan when I was a teenager. And I remember going to see this in the theater when I was I want to say 17. And I remember loving it, but I had never seen it since. So I gave it a rewatch and still holds up. It's freaking awesome.
Operation Condor.
It's kind of hard to find. But at the very least, watch the first half hour because there is a chase scene that culminates with him flying off of a car and catching a cargo net hanging above the water that is fan-fucking-tastic. So
wow.
Highly recommend Operation Condor.
Is that the one that ends and they're on a mountain and that's where the climactic battle happens? It's like some mountain lodge, I think?
Yeah. Well, it's I think it's like a pyramid, like a desert.
Oh, so no, not at all.
but it is on top of a large sandy hills.
Okay, I must be thinking of another Jackie Chan movie. Does this movie have high flying stunts and just kick butt action nonstop from beginning to end?
It does.
Okay,
it does.
I think I know that movie.
Yeah, weird.
Jackie Chan.
They all run together. I get it.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So sorry, that was kind of a long recommend segment, but
I love it.
A few things I wanted to get out there.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm glad you're able to find so much time with kids. I have a little bit of time these days, and what I would recommend is season 3 of Daredevil. I don't know if you've watched the first couple seasons.
I have not. You know how I feel about the Marvel Universe, John.
I know how much you love it so much that you just have to suppress it. You're like, I'm not going to let my love show. I know how it is. Yeah. It's like me in horror movies.
Right. So that's exactly right. So your job is to take care of that side of pop culture, and I'll do the other side.
Oh, speaking of which, Mike and I are going to go see. Shout out to Mike Fleming. We're gonna go see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse tomorrow.
The animated one.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think
I've heard it's good.
Yeah, I've heard it's good too. And at the end of Venom, you're able to see a little 5-minute clip. It was cool to see. Really kinetic and really funny, and looks like some good character-driven moments. But
nice. Well, you'll have to give us your full review next week.
Totally. That's something I recommend. Though. I recommend, like I said, is Daredevil season 3. If you've been following Daredevil the first 2 seasons, and like me, you skip Defenders, which is it's like the All-Star where they pulled together like Daredevil, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage. It's like 3 other series I never watched, but
they pulled them all together.
Pulled them all together for this super season of them fighting some big bads. I didn't watch it because I was pretty bored in the first couple episodes. But anyway, fast forward to Daredevil season 3. Daredevil's walking out of that situation somehow and recuperating and all that jazz. But what they really do well is introducing this new villain. I don't want to spoil anything and say who the villain is or his origin, but just know it's a well-known Daredevil villain. And I think they treat not only just the character and the background really well, but they do some amazing camera work. Now that I'm having a better eye for camera work, they're doing so much with the camera if you're paying attention to tell you about the character's mental state and the character's motivations and the isolation of the character to really visually tell you everything you need to know before you hear him speak or hear his thoughts, see his flashbacks. So recommend Daredevil season 3. You can find that on the old Netflix.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
So I just want to give a shout out for Chaosware doing our music for the intro and the outro, the heavy metal version of the Predator theme, originally by Alan Silvestri. That's Chaosware, Kaosware. And give credit to Smooth McGroove, who does the acapella versions for
great name.
Yeah, the video game theme songs. And you could find him online or on Twitter. Oh, speaking of Twitter, Jeff, where can people find you?
Oh, glad you asked, John. That would be Carl with a K _ H Hungus 314.
My name is Carl. Ich bin expert.
Please come follow me. And where can we find you, John?
Oh, thank you for asking, Carl Hungus. You can... Sorry, that was smooth groove. There we go.
Nice. Man, we're going to use that.
Yeah, way too many times. Yeah. So sorry. Not sorry.
Not sorry.
But if you have some really cool Green Beret Special Force references or want to correct us on something we did wrong, which is unlikely that ever happened, you can email us at predatorminute@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter and Facebook at Predator Minute Podcast. We are hosted on SoundCloud. Thank you, SoundCloud. And just find us on any old podcatcher app out there. And for Predator Minute, I've been John Zabriskie.
And I am Jeff Glover.
And until next time.
Stick around.